Alright, we are live and on the air on YouTube and Twitch. Welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a bright and early Monday morning. We're mainly here to provide you with support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you have any of those, feel free to jump over to foolishtechshow.com or foolishit.com/live and feel free to join the IRC chat, the various ways we have available. Be more than happy to interrupt whatever we may be talking about to focus on that instead. Otherwise, we will fill the air with random shop talk, and feel free to participate in that or interrupt us. So keep in mind that any opinions here expressed here are the opinions of that individual that expressed them and not of the entire company. But otherwise, how's everybody's Monday going?
Monday, no one likes Monday, I don't think, but it's going okay.
I like Mondays. I just hate mornings.
I couldn't hear you, Tank. What did you say?
I said it just started. I don't know how it's going yet.
Yeah. No, the weather this weekend it got really warm, and now it's going to cool off again. I hate the swinging back and forth. I really can't wait for spring to get here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotten cold again this morning. Like it was 70 all weekend.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think you're seeing the same thing.
Yeah, it's freezing now.
We were in South Georgia all weekend.
Yeah, and it was like 80 degrees down there.
Uh, yeah. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, I think it breached 80 here uh, yesterday. I had to put on shorts. It was and my AC definitely came on. Those are things that haven't happened previously.
I put my AC on a little bit yesterday. I had to drop it 1 degree, which is too much because I wasn't sitting down all day. 75 degrees, I have to be sitting, or it needs to be cooler. But today, I mean, just now I could tell I got colder, because it was a lot colder last night. But just now I had opened the door for better lighting, which I do on Mondays sometimes, and the sun's coming in so bright and strong. I sat here and was just sweating, so I had to shut the door.
Nice. Yeah, that's not the case here.
Yeah, but it is still cooler out there. It's just like the sun is so wow today. Wow.
Yeah, it's like it dropped 3 degrees from the time that I went to sleep to waking up, and that was only 4 hours ago. It's weird. So yeah, weather sucks.
4 hours, huh?
Oh, Glenn, I just saw that Australia is experiencing a major heat wave, so you were not kidding about it being extremely hot there.
What? It's not true until you corroborate it.
No,
I take Glenn's reporting pretty seriously.
I believed his reporting. It was just they're apparently experiencing like a crisis style. I just thought it was hot in Australia. I mean, I picture Australia as a big desert with a couple of mountains surrounded by an ocean. But that's because I've never been there. So, I expect it to be hot. Like I expected it to be hot even during their winter. I expected it to be hot.
It feels like it would be hot, like a desert, but people also don't think of a desert as being like the coldest place either, and it is, depending on, so at night.
Yeah, deserts get cold at night, that's for sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, so let's see what we got out.
Flies are alive. The heat, it's brought them back. Flies, mosquitoes. Ooh. By the way.
Yeah, I could do without the mosquitoes.
Yeah. I keep getting the flies, and they keep buzzing around and landing on my head, which is ultra sensitive with the super short hair to their, But then I think they're on my head for the next 5 minutes after they're not. Just sits me.
Thought there was some interesting things going on out here, but apparently not. Michael, what did you think about the Ligo place actually creating waves?
Gravity waves. Well, this was just an idea that one of the scientists had. Um, I don't know if it wasn't built for that purpose, and they've oftentimes tried to repurpose equipment for different tasks, and I don't doesn't usually pan out that way. I would think that there might be some conflicts in how accurately it would be able to detect that. I don't know. I didn't think it was that great. I was more interested in the stories about phone search and seizure that I was reading over the weekend. To tell you the truth, that to me was something more
For what,
interesting
the
tale.
Border Patrol?
Yeah. So there's that one, but it was also I also read a story about the guy that's been detained for 16 months over a failure to unlock uh, his it was I guess it was his phone. Yeah. Um, so they're not compelling him to give over his password or anything. They're just compelling him to unlock it, and he has it now. The case is a child porn case, so I'm sure it doesn't create any sympathy for the guy. I'm sure probably people would rather him turn it over in some cases, but it does get right down to the core issue. I understand that there may be questions about what is on his phone, but in the case of the recent guy, this is a NASA guy born in the U.S. and stopped in the border after coming back from what was it, South America, Chile, somewhere like that.
Chile, yeah.
Yeah, and he had a NASA phone, and apparently it's NASA. You have a
NASA
passcode.
issued.
Yeah, NASA issue phone, and it has a passcode. Apparently, one of the reasons NASA puts the phone, password on it, and also encryption is to prevent any, classified or sensitive information from, being gathered. And he thought it was the guy going through the border was. Um, thought it was a violation for him to give over the password, but he was basically detained and withheld until he turned it over, and there was nothing found, and so he didn't do anything wrong, from what I understand. But he was detained, and until he did that, so it begs a lot of questions. You know, the authority that they're
I was
exerting.
thinking that you're gonna have to start mailing your phone to yourself when you leave a place.
Yeah, yeah.
All your electronics and stuff, just mail them.
And so I'm just wondering, what was the compelling thing to get them? I mean, if cops aren't allowed to just randomly pull people over and just start searching them and whatever, there needs to be a reason for it. What was the reason for him being stopped? Was it just how he looked?
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
this?
I
That's.
was almost certain that was it. Look at the picture for that link I posted of it.
Let me check it. I didn't see any
Blam!
good pictures, but
Trump era in full action.
so yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, This is it's very disturbing the world that we're living in. Um,
But one funny thing I thought was that for back on that LIGO thing, with how long it took them to detect a gravity wave, and they're talking about generating their own.
well, again,
They wouldn't
that's
even know. They
I
wouldn't even know.
I think it's I think it's just premature, and that's where my skepticism was coming from. I think it's one of those things that get good at detecting them first before you start sending them out. If you can't detect them, I don't think any experiment should do sending them out. Just like you said, is it's not going to yield good data. Um,
They would have no idea. Hey, back on the phone things though. Did you hear about the French guy? France.
No, what? Maybe. What was this?
So a man is suing Uber after an iOS bug exposes his affair to his wife and causing her to file for divorce from him.
Oh, it's
He's
Uber's
suing
fault. He was
for
having an affair.
45 million whatever francs, or I guess is what France would use.
Oh, it's Uber's
Um,
fault.
Now this
Yes.
is an interesting bug, and it does expose your privacy. Like so, essentially
Yeah,
what
but
happened.
he can't take his marriage into as
Well, hold
damages.
on, hold on.
All right, go ahead.
So essentially, what happens here is he signed in on his wife's phone, an iOS phone. And now take this, that you sign in on anybody's random iOS phone. You hail a cab, or you hail an Uber, get your Uber there. Before you get in the Uber, you log off of the app, right? So that it's not in there. You could even uninstall the app so it's not there. I think it might be that you have to have the app still there. Either way, even if you're logged off, it still sends you updates about your trip and where you're going. It only happens on the iOS. It doesn't happen on Android, but that's extreme privacy exposure. So, like,
Yeah,
you
it is.
borrow somebody's phone to hail
I
Uber,
gotcha.
now they know where your destination
Okay.
is.
Agreed that it's a privacy violation. Agreed that it's a bug that they need to fix. Agreed that they probably should pay uh, potential that they could potentially be responsible for damages. But I have a hard time tying in his marriage again to as part of the.
I mean, if that's part of the damages, that I mean, that
But
is a
it wasn't.
life-altering,
It's not
changing
marketed as a.
thing.
It's not marketed as a privacy tool. In other words, they didn't. Uber out the gate didn't claim any level of privacy. Whether that was an assumption that this guy
No,
made.
they definitely say that they take privacy of their users extremely.
Okay. Well, if they are making claims about privacy, then maybe they are responsible. Okay, I'll give it that. But
I
maybe.
mean,
I
that's
mean,
like
the answer
Michael.
is
Come
maybe he
on,
shouldn't be.
any company should care about the privacy of their users.
Uh, you know, just because Facebook has a privacy policy doesn't mean that I'm going to embrace it or use it. So, I don't think that we can always trust a third party to uh, be a privacy advocate. Just like, while I would hope that the FDA wouldn't tell me I can eat something that's going to kill me, um, I shouldn't be, actively trying to consume arsenic either, even if it is at or below FDA approved levels. The point is that there needs to be some personal sense of responsibility in situations, and you can't always depend upon a company or third party or agency or anyone else to necessarily look out for your uh, best interests. Now, yet again, should they be responsible for privacy-related damages? Possibly. I don't think they should be responsible for the amount that this guy is asking for.
They didn't say why he was claiming 45 million. I guess francs is it? Let's see how much that is
Well,
in
maybe that's not.
dollars.
Yeah, I don't know what the conversion is, but. Uh, No, okay. Has there ever been a case of a company actually paying for a privacy issue? Can't they just say, "Oh, sorry about that. That was just a bug. We'll fix it and move on"? I mean,
I don't know. Um, I mean, it's been taken to court, so we'll see. I guess. Oh, Switzerland is the one with francs, and it
well,
defaulted to euros.
yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. France is on the euro, aren't they? You got me curious.
Did France not get to keep their own money?
No, that was just Britain. So yeah, that makes sense. They're not on the franc anymore. Oh God, the dollar is or the euro is bad. The euro is below a U.S. dollar now.
Yep. 94 cents to the dollar.
Wild.
While
Yeah.
Bitcoin
So
is
after
for 1,000.
so after
Pound's down at
1999.
$1.25.
Yeah. 1999, I think, was the last time the franc was the currency of France. It went from 1360 to 1999. That's a nice long little run there. Not like everything else, I guess. All good things.
I think it's even crazier that the pound is down to $1.25. They used to be almost double what we are.
Yeah. Not quite double, but yeah.
Well, speaking of waking up early in the morning, you can build an Arduino Nerf target alarm clock that forces you to shoot a Nerf dart at the alarm to turn it off.
That's no thanks.
But if you're using a Nerf dart from bed, that would just make me go back to sleep again.
But I think the point is that the Nerf dart is difficult to shoot at the clock,
I guess it's been a while since I shot Nerf
especially when you're
darts.
asleep. Maybe you have to wake up to do that. I mean, I would think a Nerf dart would just fly off course all the time, just at any distance. You know what I'm saying? And if you give the alarm clock a moving target instead, I didn't click the link, but
Yeah, if you make the alarm clock moving, that would be awesome.
yeah, so take the moving alarm clock and then add the target.
That would be difficult. That would be a lot
I will have to get that for Jay. She's sleeping right now.
more. This one looks like it's stationary, but I mean, with Arduino stuff, you could easily add motors to it. Yeah, no, I guess it's been a really long time since I shot a Nerf gun. Because I was thinking like just half waking up, holding it sideways, and shooting it like a gangster and falling back to sleep.
So, it looks like Verizon, because of backlash from the Super Bowl commercials, looks like they're bringing back their unlimited data plans. But with the
Are you gonna get it?
So it's $80 a month, and you got a 22 gig cap after which you're throttled to probably 2G speeds, I'd imagine.
I thought it was 10 gigs.
No, it's 22 gigs from what
It's
they're
not
reporting.
2G speeds, it's 3G speeds.
Is it 3G speeds? Okay, well that's a little bit better. All right, well, still
It's
though.
not that much better. I went through a couple 3G spots going to Georgia, and it's like almost ridiculous. Like I happened to go through a 3G spot as soon as I decided to switch or change albums on, and like I heard like 20 seconds of it, and then it stopped.
I've even heard of
20 more seconds.
Well, I've even heard of people throttling to 2G, but yeah, I mean obviously
other places
we've gotten
do
spoiled.
2G.
We've gotten spoiled by 4G.
Johnny, what did you say about the Johnny?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Was you said that something got throttled after 10 gigs?
Yeah, that's what I read. Hold on, I'll pull it up. It's right here.
And maybe that was for the because they're doing two different things. You can either pay $80 a line, or if you have 4 lines, it'll be $45 a line. Maybe it's the 4-line one. They throttle you at 10 gigs after that.
It's 22 gigs.
Oh. Well,
they that's
Tethering.
hotspot tethering. Yeah, it's 10 gigs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you could go through a lot of data that way. Yeah, I was surprised that they included the hotspot tethering with that.
Well, anyway, 22 gigs. I mean, considering I'm using well over 100 gigs, even sometimes approaching 200 gigs on my, um, regular home line, internet, 22 seems incredibly small. But and
Yeah,
I
but
also have a crazy thing that how do you advertise something as unlimited, even and still have a limit? I mean, there's the throttling limit. I just
Oh,
I
that's
miss
because
the old
4G,
days. I miss the old days.
the 4G is limited, but you can use unlimited 3G.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, that's why that's partly related to the FCC not caring about the customers anymore, consumers.
It's like saying, "Oh, yeah, just you can drink all the water you want to, but it only comes out at a drip every other minute." But yeah, whatever. I can make 1,000 analogies, I suppose, but I'm stretching already. So one of the things this is continuing to be incredibly popular. Nintendo. In fact, I'm starting to believe that maybe Nintendo just did their NES Classic as a kind of a test that they're going to come out with like a NES Classic 2 and have a entire product line, particularly if like let's say the Switch doesn't take off as well. But it looks like they've been able to hack the NES Classic to play Genesis and Super Nintendo and Game Boy and virtually anything else like traditional uh, emulator, retro, emulator might be able to do. So it's making it a lot more flexible for those that want to do that. I'm effectively bringing the entire, not only Nintendo's entire library, but potentially the entire library of other consoles from similar era. Although, you're starting to run into some performance limitations. There's, running 16-bit games on it is apparently sometimes slow. But I thought that's interesting news, and I definitely see a future line of products for Nintendo coming from this. It's still sold out everywhere you go, from what I hear, even like around here. So it's not just like in a big city. So.
Yeah, it would be nice if they actually start like offering all their games and such. But I guess they're also limited in the fact that they don't own the rights to any of those games that came out for it. They have to. They probably only own the rights to very few of them, actually. But emulators are nice, and they probably will get more popular as days go on. Especially since they're so easy to make yourself.
Well, I had a long conversation, and there is like they've sold these systems before, particularly the Atari, so the 1,000 different types of retro systems, basically. But you know,
But
there
all of
seems to,
those have very limited game sets available
yeah,
for them.
very limited game sets. So that's a big problem. The other thing was, if you go back too far, people will turn away from it. Nobody really is as much as somebody might have nostalgia for Pong. Nobody's going to sit there and play Pong for hours on end in front of a TV anymore these days. I don't think it's just not technologically compelling enough. Now, of course, 8-bit retro Nintendo games aren't that huge of an improvement. However, there's enough immersion and there's enough storyline to those games to keep people involved and coming back. I always considered like sometimes a lot of the like Atari 2600 games, for instance, to be time wasters, for short term games, blowing an hour or two at an arcade maybe, but that's about it. Whereas I remember putting in an entire day's worth of gameplay on a Nintendo with obviously you devote a little bit more time to like an RPG or a grand adventure, but um, yeah, I think that Nintendo is like the sweet spot basically, where it's not too old that it just makes people cringe when they look at it, and but it's not modern enough for them to feel. It's definitely got that nostalgia thing still going for it. So.
Well, Nintendo actually had some great games.
Oh yeah, they truly did. Hmm.
I mean, while Pong was a great game for innovation and things of that nature, it wasn't exactly like a great game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's debatable what a perfect game is, but clearly Nintendo had a ton of
Oh,
hit
that's not
titles.
debatable. It's Half-Life. Half-Life is a great game.
Surprised people aren't yelling at us. I don't think Glenn plays games, though, does he?
No, Glenn's very serious. Well, I thought this article was pretty interesting. Apparently, they've discovered earthworks resembling Stonehenge. Kind of a clickbait title because there are no stones at all around those things. It's just the circles in the earth that are around Stonehenge that they're alluding to. Yes, Glenn, I mentioned Half-Life. I say it's the basis for what you would call a great game. But I did think this article was interesting for other reasons. A, they used drones to find out if to find these areas. That was pretty cool. And then
I read this story too. The part that I thought was interesting, and I'm sorry for cutting you off, but let me just see if this is the same thing.
yeah, go ahead.
Is it because that or the thing that I found interesting was that what we thought was completely um, land that basically was never touched, never built upon in any significant way. Uh, it looks like some of these things were relatively recent in the grand geological timescales, and have just basically overgrown in the past couple of thousand years or so. I thought that was kind of interesting that that there were maybe vibrant civilizations there, and we had no idea. Until relatively recently, like, just now. I thought that was, usually mankind leaves a big mark, we can usually tell pretty quickly that people were there, and it looks like that this wasn't so much the case there.
Yeah, so they did. That was kind of part of what I was going for. I also liked the part that they said it was in year zero. But that's
Oh,
partly because of the whole Nine Inch Nails reference. Um, but no, they said their discovery reverses assumptions that the rainforest ecosystem has been untouched by humans because they cleared a small plot of land to do this. However, they wouldn't have found this if we didn't re-clear that land by other humans, and they neglected to mention the fact that while people cutting down trees and clearing out a rainforest in year zero is a lot different than them cutting down rainforest and clearing out land in year 2017. Like they wipe entire areas in a couple weeks, whereas this probably took them quite some time to clear out that land. And yeah, it's a big difference there, I feel.
hmm. I had something else. What did I have here?
Was it about all this uh, privacy stuff?
No,
There's a
oh, did you just?
group policy pack for privacy and telemetry.
Telemetry. I'll look at that link. I was going for this one though. Mission Impossible style exploding phones and our features. Remember how I was talking about the self-destruct button for your phone and how,
Yeah,
improper
and that
search and seizures.
Samsung's latest feature.
Uh, I was. I see
That's
where you're
where I
going with
thought
that.
that article was going. That's why I didn't even read it when
Yeah.
I thought it was.
No, this is apparently they've been doing some interesting material sciences with this, and actually with uh, is it pressure or heat? I can't remember, but that kicks this off. Oh yeah, temperatures above 80, which I'm pretty sure there's probably some batteries on the market already getting above that, so I'm not so clear that that's the best temperature target that they want with this. But it
Yeah, my
basically
Samsung
causes.
definitely gets higher than that.
So there's a polymer layer, and it rapidly expands when it gets to that temperature, and kind of causing it to blow up from the inside out. And apparently it's rapid enough that it would, you know, probably break all the chips on the phone. Um, uh, they don't go into a whole lot of detail about this, but I can see this being used in very niche markets like maybe spy work, stuff like that. But I doubt this could be a consumer product. I'm just guessing that if you have a device that you're going to create to explode, that carrying around in your pocket and having it explode might hurt somebody or something. And geez, what kind of labeling would they have to put on something like that? I can't even imagine how they would market that effectively to consumers.
Sure, it wouldn't come out for consumers.
But I do like the idea, especially in light of all those things we're talking about, where they're basically compelling you to unlock your phones and give over your data.
Just be some repurposing of Samsung Note 7s.
But it's
A lot of jokes around that, but it looks like this is actually a real thing. But yeah, sorry. It's a good. I don't think Samsung's ever gonna let their thing down. I mean, they're oh, and I was kind of shocked too. Like, I like closer to a 5-inch size phone. It looks like the S8 is going to there's only going to be a 0.3 inch difference between the 8 and the 8 Plus. So
Hey, Phoenix.
I'm a little upset about the increase in size.
In which phone, Michael?
Samsung.
Okay.
I think we went through that on Friday, Michael.
Yeah. Glenn, there's some good Half-Life for you. Video Game Donkey is a fairly entertaining video game commenter. And I never noticed the fact that you could kill everybody by just shooting their hand. I guess I might have, but it was pretty interesting. If you like Half-Life, it's still pretty good. I thought this was pretty cool too. Build your own Raspberry Pi laptop, the official screen and 3D printed case. And the difference in this one versus the other ones that we mentioned before is this one looks really nice. Nice, very nice.
So okay, so that's interesting. Did they what's the cost of that?
The laptop?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're supposed to build it yourself, so I don't exactly have a.
Oh, like a 3D printed case, you mean? It's not like a kit
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah.
Okay. So there was this that brings where okay, so there was this, I want to say it was a Kickstarter project. It was like a laptop based upon upgradable, replaceable parts. So you could kind of just like swap out little modules for upgrades. But it got a lot of criticism because it was basically like an ARM chip inside a relatively cheap case, and basically the parts were all underpowered and it was expensive. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it, but basically if the cost of this is much lower, I mean, you're basically getting the same thing, I would imagine, like what they were trying to do with that at a much lower price point. I can't particularly find it But
Phoenix says that Easy Boot 1.9B beta is now available, and that he got a Moto 360 42 millimeter and is working great so far. Was that the second generation, the Moto 2? Yeah, looks like it.
so I don't think I posted this link earlier when I was talking about it, but this was the link to the guy that's been jailed for 16 months. Also, there was, did I actually even, or did I just chat? Not even. So there's so there's an article here. I didn't post this already, did I? So this is about surveillance, mass surveillance. So the concern that this article raises is when facial recognition gets put on police body cams, and the potential harm that could come of that. But I wasn't aware of this, but they already use facial recognitions in like department stores. So to see to identify like problem customers, or maybe like somebody, I guess if you know you're a previous shoplifter, or if you're
It's true.
kiting checks, or if you're doing something else. But I just didn't realize that they have completely automated technology to single you out and potentially kick you out of the store. And that's just in a regular department store.
No more Pretty Woman in anymore.
No. So Johnny, come on, give me your first-hand experience, because this I hadn't heard about this before. What?
My first-hand experience.
She's been kicked out of the store.
What the hell?
Well, you seem to know about it, so
I'm just saying that. Hold on. Okay, it's never happened to me, but somebody I know was caught stealing at Walmart. Like, would go into Walmart and steal stuff all the time, and then finally, some people greeted him at the door while he was walking in, because the cameras identified him, like his face,
yeah, shit.
and he wasn't
Sorry.
allowed in.
That's just surprising. Again, I didn't think it was that widely deployed, that type of technology. I thought this was, relatively limited to security cameras at more, maybe like at airports or something, or just more limited. If they were in every retail store, every large retail store, I don't know, it's bothersome to me. I don't like being. I don't think anybody likes being observed that closely. And I had already criticized Britain back in the day for all their CCTV stuff, but it has proven to be very effective at reducing their crime rates, from what I understand. So there are definitely some benefits to this, but if there's not testing of these algorithms, if these are just rolled out and acted upon without more conventional checks, there could be problems. And, again, I'm complaining about a potential problem. I don't think that there's been a ton of reported cases of misidentification. But you can imagine, let's say in the case of a body cam, if there was a misidentification and the body cam is saying, hey, this is the guy that, killed 20 people, and it's not, and then an altercation occurs and maybe somebody gets wounded or shot or hurt otherwise, that's significant, and I would hope that they do put some things in check. And also, too, what about if you were turned away from a more simpler case? What if you were turned away from Walmart and you had not committed any crime in the past, that your face was simply being flagged, and a security officer was just following their procedures? And
with how many doppelgangers are out there.
Well, we had talked about doppelgangers in the past before, but there's got to be as much as they want to claim 100% accuracy, there's got to be false positives. It's always going to be the case. And are you always going to get burned if you're on the bad end of that? I don't like that. I don't like being convicted without a trial, without being able to present evidence otherwise. And that's what it sort of sounds like
Maybe it
this is
could
leading
work in
to.
the reverse. Like you end up being doppelgangered with someone like rich and famous, and like they take you to like the special section
Oh,
of
so that
Walmart.
only happens in movies where, just happen to bump into somebody rich and famous, and then, I've somehow take on their ID. No, that's like a movie plot that never really happens, I don't think.
I don't know. Proctor looks a lot like that actor that he had in his Facebook profile for that time.
Maybe I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, I thought that was me when I saw that picture.
Yeah, Proctor could end up being like walking into Walmart and they take him to like the super special side of Walmart that only rich and famous people get to shop in,
Exactly.
and like they just give him free champagne, and escort him around the store, all kinds of fun things.
Well, I'll see y'all later. I'm headed to Walmart.
Do you not know who my face is? That'll be fun. Well, hey, I was going to bring this up last week, but I wanted to wait until Nick was here because I thought he would get a kick out of it. This is an article of why you should use PowerShell instead of batch scripting. The first one is PowerShell scripting is improved. Some conditional logic is added. And the next one I thought he'd really love is that PowerShell supports the full .NET API.
All useless to me so far. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The third one was where it was really like, really, what that doesn't make sense. Is that PowerShell can run batch scripts, so you can just use batch scripts in the PowerShell. That kind of weird as a
Yeah,
reason why to use PowerShell. And then the last,
already.
yeah, the last two were PowerShell is Microsoft's intended future, which they have a lot of intended features that they're never going to get around to. Then PowerShell can be used on Linux. Not quite sure how that would help either. Yeah.
For what? I mean, people always they pimp that stuff, but then it's like, okay, I get that there are some variables that can be replaced here and there or used for certain things, but you can't just take a script to do something on Windows and throw it on Linux, and just because it'll work doesn't mean things aren't in the same place, just to start with. So
Yeah.
let's just drop that whole pretense.
Yeah, I think the Linux side was kind of far-reaching, but I mean, essentially, this kind of points out
if you're using batch files, why would you then want to run it through a separate interpreter that may or may not have all the bugs worked out? You know what I'm saying? Or just doesn't work, may or may not work as exactly as the original because you expect it to work exactly as the original. Why would you not use the original when it's still there?
Well, we found that. Are you able to do WIM stuff through batch script?
Yeah.
Because
So there's a WMIC.
Shut up, Michael. He was having. You use WMIC.exe with the batch script, whereas you would just use like a bunch of, like code otherwise with like a VB script or I guess PowerShell.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, wasn't that what we ran into with that system restore thing? Trying to figure out how to make it so you could create more than one custom system restore in 24 hours.
I didn't think you could fix that. I thought that was a Windows thing.
No, I looked into that, but it wasn't resolved.
Well, you could fix it with a registry change.
Yeah, there was a registry change.
But Michael, you had found a PowerShell script that could do something. Like maybe it created a
I think it just created.
it created a restore point without that limitation.
I gotta look back over my notes. I'll let you know.
But
in a minute.
anyway, Nick was like, "Well, why don't you find out what that script is actually doing? Because somewhere there's a spot that actually tells you what that script's doing, and it's probably just using other commands that aren't necessarily PowerShell specific."
Exactly. The only advantage I see to using PowerShell is if you don't want to use VBScript or something like that to interface with WMI or something like that, that you may need to, like call a ActiveX com thing from the system and then loop through some junk. You can do it like with batch, with the WMIC utility, as long as I keep that around. But the thing is that I mean, just the syntax is different. I mean, you have to do a different kind of loop and everything else, and it's a little wonky working with external utilities, and that's the only thing about batch with the WMIC thing. Just working with it's just an external reliance, but which makes things like capturing the input and the output of WMIC. If like you need to capture the output of that for some reason, I mean it depending on the output and the format, that could be difficult to parse in batch, whereas that's only
the last thing I used PowerShell for really was disabling and enabling Defender. I couldn't find that reference, so I'm not sure. I don't think I was able to overcome. I mean, there's a way to create a restore pointer, but I don't think that overcame the problem. I'll follow up with you guys if that changes, if I find that that's different.
Okay. We'll be waiting on the edge of our seats. Windows 10 Cloud was leaked, and they already hacked it so you can run regular Windows 32 programs on it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty fun.
Well, I thought that was already explicitly allowed by packaging on the store or whatever, but
no, the cloud one was only allowed you to run things through the store app, so you had to use the
Metro thing.
universal Metro apps basically.
Oh, so okay, so now
But
that's not okay. I got you.
They figured out it's just Windows 10 and figured out how to make it so that it could be you can run any 32-bit program, because I don't believe it's 64-bit.
The same as Windows RT, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was, but you couldn't hack that one to run Windows 32-bit programs. Like the only ones that would run would be Microsoft Office. They allowed you to run those in the non-Metro style, but that was because they hadn't completed their Metro style apps of those programs when they released Windows RT.
Wow.
And for good future news of Windows 10, pretty interesting that they're going to add a picture-in-picture mode. The Windows overlay option does only apply to Metro apps, I believe. Universal apps is probably going to be the focus of that, but it will allow you to keep like a video player on top and in a little small window while you're doing other things on there. So if you're still stuck with one screen, or you want to use all the screens you have available and still watch something.
So the new Metro thing is now getting multitasking. It's not like sort of like person multitasking, not computer. We've long passed the concept of that, but you now get to multitask with these modern applications.
I think so. I think you might be allowed to.
Wow, modern is really coming along. It's gonna, at this rate, it's gonna catch up with prehistoric.
Windows 3.1.
Yeah.
95 here soon.
I know.
And always on top, they got that feature now. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks like I was just finding this. It looks like there's just literally the programs that they restrict from running are basically those that Microsoft hasn't included on a whitelist, and it appears that you can just modify that list to allow any arbitrary program to run. And they're calling it UMCI, but I don't have a reference to what
So they're probably going to end up
UMCI.
changing that.
What is UMCI? Well, I don't know that they
They
can.
probably did the whitelist thing so that they could easily run apps that they needed to while they were developing and testing.
But there's an app converter tool already included for apparently allowing. I don't think Microsoft made it particularly. I don't think their goal was to prevent things from running with this so much, but
Microsoft's goal is definitely to force everybody into the Windows Store. That's their end game. They want everybody to put their stuff on universal apps so that it can run across all their devices.
you know what? That's consistent with what they're doing with that. Yeah, you're right. Huh? I still don't know what this UMCI means actually, but I keep referencing it in relation to this issue, but nobody ever bothers to explain what the acronym stands for.
UMCI?
Yeah. Uses strongly enforced UMCI to make unsigned applications not work. I hadn't heard of UMCI before, but maybe it's something that's unrelated to this that's always been around. I don't know.
Device Guard and Credential Guard. Yeah, Phoenix had it. It's basically Windows 10 Device Guard, which is being used in Windows 10 Cloud that only uses to check SIGs to check. Where was the actual? Its user mode cousin UMCI actually enforces the policy that the KMCI has put in place. And Phoenix says it can be easily bypassed. We'll bypass this.
Thank you, Phoenix.
Castlevania is getting an animated Netflix series.
Oh, I heard it's gonna be it's gonna be rated R too. I heard it's gonna be it might have some cool graphic scenes with Alucard.
I don't remember anything rated R about Castlevania.
No, but I read some speculation that this would potentially had the possibility of going that route, you know, of being a more mature or being set for a more mature audience. I just thought that would be interesting. Obviously, there's vampire stuff has sometimes a component to it that fits a little bit better with a more mature audience.
It fits better with a more mature audience, but the subject material actually only applies to people without any maturity whatsoever, in my opinion. The whole vampire thing. So the whole thing is just like it shouldn't exist, really.
That's exactly what a vampire would say.
Okay. But at any rate, the article that I had read about this suggested that, and I was enticed a little bit about potentially seeing something like that.
I was just curious by it because I played a couple of the Castlevanias, and I can't see a real good show coming out of it. Like, all I remember is you went around whipping a whole bunch of candles. That was like the majority of Castlevania for me.
I was
and they better do that during any show that they have. They better whip some candles.
I was a big fan of, was it Castlevania 3 or 2 where you could be the different characters, the multi-character? You could be Alucard. Yeah, 3.
It was the most popular one, I think, too.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
Well, we've talked about the phone scammers here, even about how my grandfather got hit by one of them. apparently someone has decided to strike back. They got a couple of messages from the Microsoft technical department, and they decided to write a phone bot that would just sit there and call them tons and tons and tons until they decided to disconnect their number. I thought that was pretty fun. Kind of a little turn of the tables there. Although not recommended to be done, because I'm not sure what kind of regulations would go against you writing phone scripts that just overloaded the phone systems. And although I don't have a doorbell, I thought this was a pretty cool Raspberry Pi idea. You can add a doorbell that takes a picture and then sends it to you with the Raspberry Pi. Pretty neat little idea there. The first comment says, all I can think of is the little notice underneath the doorbell that says, by ringing this doorbell, you're agreeing to our terms of service. Speaking of which, we were in a Subway last night, and they had more cameras than we have in our house, which is quite the accomplishment. Especially considering it's like the size of a small bedroom. They had like 10 cameras pointed at every angle. Majority of them pointing behind the counter, so a little bit concerning there. And a little bit older news, but apparently WordPress is definitely being targeted by hackers now. Over 1.5 million pages have been defaced.
Just want to let everybody know, though, that the problem, I believe, is patched. If you have an up-to-date copy of WordPress and have reasonably good security principles, I don't think you're at risk. But
it's fixed with 4.7.2, which was released on January 26. So you should be okay if you update your WordPress. And we had noticed that WordPress actually automatically does updates now.
Yeah, so it's just shocking sometimes at how widespread it would seem that people have systems that just don't update or are otherwise, compromised or left exposed. Or, I mean, that's how many million did you say? 1 point something million? That's a lot of servers.
Yeah. I do like some of their campaign names.
You know who?
By Follow Sniper.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was it Trend Micro was affected by this? Apparently, one of the sites that they run is WordPress related, and it was affected by it was defaced. I gotta find that story. I think it was Trend Micro. Yeah, Trend Micro hit by WordPress Blitz. Let's see. That's probably it. Yeah, it was on the blog that they had. It was a WordPress blog.
Nice.
And it was a victim of a content spoofing attack. And they exploited a vulnerability in WordPress to inject fake content. Yeah, it's the same issue. Mm-hmm. And they're a security. So, I don't understand how the security vendors expect to get their message across to their customers if they can't even get the message across to their own employees and users and infrastructure. I do believe something is amiss with the security field as it is today.
Well, it's quite the conundrum, though, because if you push out automatic updates, people freak out and get upset with you, apparently, as Microsoft is finding out.
Oh, that's true.
But if you just let people use updates and they don't apply updates, and then Microsoft looks bad for having an insecure operating system, when really it's just the case that people haven't been applying updates to them. So
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, that's not new. Come on, Michael.
Well, we've hit our hour time limit, so I got one last interesting link here. If you've ever wanted your domain to be accessible directly through the Tor network, they now have a Enterprise Onion toolkit that you can use to add a .onion URL to your site's domain in a matter of minutes. So yeah, there's that.
Has this been adopted by anybody?
What?
I mean, has any big?
Facebook's on .onion.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. There's lots of sites that have .onion options.
I didn't realize it was that widespread.
Yeah. That's funny. It shows that your page always accesses from a .onion address. All right. Well, that should wrap us up for this early Monday morning. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Again, we are mainly here to provide support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you do have any of those and need to get them answered quickly, you can always feel free to contact our support via the various means we have on our website. Otherwise, if you'd rather wait and talk to us directly tomorrow, we'll be more than happy to do that. Just wait until 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and jump in the chat. So thanks everybody for joining us. Glenn and Phoenix, thanks for participating. We will see you all later. Take us out, Michael.